Hey, what's going on guys? Welcome back to Dragalia Lost. I finally completed High Midgard a bunch of times now to the point where I feel like I'm able to write a guide for it. In this video, I'm going to go over requirements and prerequisites in terms of your character. We are also going to take a look at every single significant move that High Midgard does. Then I'll end things off with some tips, and I'll even talk a little bit about some attack patterns to look out for. Do keep in mind that I've only used Vanessa so far for High Midgard. I have no experience with Verica or the healing role whatsoever, so I won't be mentioning much information related to that role. I do understand what healers are supposed to do at a couple key points during the fight, so I will mention it when it comes up. But for the most part, I'll mainly just mention what to do as a DPS player. If you are new to High Midgard and you plan to be a healer, then you should still watch this video because I'm going to go over his attacks, tips, and attack patterns, so that information will definitely still help you out. Alright, so with all that being said, let us begin the guide for High Midgard Trials. Let's start with the requirements. You're going to obviously need a fire character. I'm going to break it up into 3 tiers. The first tier will include must-have characters for every High Midgard team. The second being the quote-quote optimal and safe characters to use. And lastly, the third tier will include characters that have the damage to clear High Midgard, but they aren't as safe as the previous tiers. These guys will take more practice and they have less room for error. So starting from the top, it's obviously Verica. She's a fire healer that has a great kit that's built for High Midgard, and her first healing skill removes stun on all teammates, so that's really nice to have in case your team has a player that is using someone without 100% stun resistance. Tier 2 includes Makoto, Yuden, and Vanessa. These are the DPS characters with stun resistance 100%. These 3 have pretty good damage output, especially Makoto. He's the best DPS character for this stage. Tier 3 includes basically most of the other fire characters. There's Ezzelith, Navid, Sanoa, Aoi, Melsa, Zania, Renelle, and Elaine. The only 2 I would avoid are Orion and Joe. Orion is a healer that has split healing and damage skills, but he doesn't do well with either role. Joe, as an actual DPS character, outputs the lowest damage compared to every other fire character. I'm sure it's doable with him if the other members have very high strength, but if you put him with the average team in public matches, I'm almost certain that he doesn't output enough damage to defeat High Midgard before the time limit. I think if you choose Zania or Elaine, you might not get accepted on teams in public matches, but they are definitely viable. So those are the characters that you can use. I would talk and go over team comps, but as long as your team meets all the requirements for this stage, then you can honestly just mix and match characters. You obviously need Verica, so that leaves 3 spots open. I would try to diversify the weapon types on your team so co-abilities do not overlap, but that really isn't that big of a deal if your team exceeds the required stats, and I'll talk more about stat requirements in a little bit. Now let's talk about Wyrmprints. Everyone on the team needs to have Glorious Tempest. You can craft and obtain this Wyrmprint through treasure trade. It requires a max unbounded Great Worm Midgard print, 500 regular Jade insignias, and 200 Royal Jade insignias. The best way to farm regular Jade insignias is by completing your Expert Win Onslaught 3 times every day so you can get Jade insignias from the 3 daily rewards. You get 3 skip tickets daily, so I would recommend just using those tickets on Expert Win Onslaught, or you can just complete them manually, it's up to you. Then you can farm Master Win Onslaught to get both Royal and regular insignias after using up your 3 dailies. Once you craft the Wyrmprint, level it up to 100 and your job is done here. Now let's finally talk about stat requirements. The first move that High Midgard does is an unavoidable explosion move that deals a ton of damage. You have to tank and survive this attack to move forward in the fight. In order to survive this attack, your character has to meet a certain HP threshold. It's different for melee and range, so pay attention. Fire melee characters with the Glorious Tempest Wyrmprint equipped are required to have 1624 HP, while fire range characters are required to have 2029 HP. Now, the HP threshold can be lowered if your team has the defense passive buff from an axe character. Right now, the only axe fire character is Vanessa, and if she unlocks all her mana nodes, her co-ability only goes up to 11% defense. So with that being said, the minimum required HP as of right now is 1463 for melees and 1828 for range if your team includes a maxed out Vanessa. If a new 5-star fire X character ever gets released, then you can start looking at the 15% defense column. Keep in mind that not every team in public has a maxed out Vanessa, so I would try to go for 1624 HP for melees and 2029 for ranged. You may be asking, how do I reach this HP threshold? Well, there's a lot of things that you can do to increase your character's HP. First, your character should be 5 stars and maxed out in level. Their mana node should almost be fully completed. They should be equipped with a base 5-star fire weapon or a max unbounded 4-star elemental weapon. Glorious Tempest Wyrmprint maxed out to level 100, and your character will need a high rarity and level dragon. Agni, Cerberus, Ifrit, and Pel are great for DPS users, while Phoenix is great for Verica. Please do not put Phoenix on your DPS character. You'll have the HP to survive High Midgard, but you'll lack damage. Lastly, you'll need high level altars and dojos. Fire altars are easier to upgrade than dojos, so try to max out both of your fire altars. They max out at level 30. The dojo will depend on your character's weapon type. For example, if you're using Makoto, then you should level up the Blade Dojo, Sword Dojo for Yuden, Axe Dojo for Vanessa, and etc. But you should get whatever dojo you're trying to upgrade to at least 20/20 each. Surviving High Midgard is a big deal, but having enough strength is just as important. I think the minimum strength needed for DPSers is 2000 strength. You might need to get carried in damage from your allies, but it's definitely doable. If you want to be safe, then 2100 or 2200 strength is what I would recommend shooting for. That's all there is to talk about regarding requirements and prerequisites. If you have any questions, then you can ask me in the comments, but now let's get into our next topic, which is High Midgard's attacks. The first move he does is Calamicious Storm. I talked about it earlier. It's an undodgeable move. You have to tank it and survive it. You have to have 100% stun resistance in order to not get stunned by this attack. If you're using a character that doesn't have stun resistance 100%, that's fine because High Midgard doesn't do anything for a good 10 seconds after using the attack. Your character will have enough time to recover. Trident Tempest is when High Midgard flies in the air and shoots tornadoes in 3 directions in front of him. It's pretty easy to dodge. All you have to do is move to the side, behind him, or move to the space in between the purple lines. After he does Trident Tempest, he will always dash forward or turn his body, then dash forward. And then he'll do this spinning claw swipe attack. This attack inflicts stun, so you want to make sure that you dodge it if your character does not have 100% stun resistance. You can use skill iframes to dodge it, and if your character is right next to him when he does this attack, all it takes is one dodge roll in the opposite direction to avoid it. I don't know what to call this next attack, so we're just going to refer to it as Gale Balls. He shoots 3 consecutive green balls out of his mouth, and it's always targeted towards somebody. This is the move that usually causes a lot of death from my experience, including myself. You can use skill iframes to dodge it, but since he does it 3 times in a row, most of the time you won't have enough skills ready to dodge every single one. What I would recommend doing is to try not to stay in front of him. Try to stay on his side or his back, so when he prepares to shoot out a green ball, you'll have enough time to react as he's turning his body. If you don't have the reflexes to dodge it in time, then you can preemptively dodge in a direction that nobody is at. He's always going to target somebody with this attack, so if you just dodge into an open space, then you'll be safe. This next attack is kind of like Trident Tempest, except that he shoots tornadoes in all directions, not just in front of him. Just move to the spaces in between the purple lines and you'll be safe. You can always tell when he'll perform this attack from the quote that pops up at the top. He'll always say, "I shall render you asunder." Tattered Sky is the attack that requires some teamwork. The first part is a homing red attack that will target one person on your team. When you see the big red circle, your team must stack on top of each other and the damage will split across each member of your team. If even one person is out of the circle, then somebody will die. After that, a purple circle will appear under each player. This is called Storm Chaser. This is when your team has to do the complete opposite. They have to spread out and make sure that the purple circle does not overlap with somebody else's. I won't go into specifics, but Verica needs to use healing skills properly to help your team survive this attack. It also helps if nobody gets heavily damaged prior to this attack. Also keep in mind that he'll do the Tattered Sky and Storm Chase combo about 2 to 3 times during the duration of this fight. When you get him into overdrive mode, he'll summon 3 golems onto the stage. When this happens, your job as a team is to take out all the golems before the purple circle fills up. While this is happening, High Midgard will perform his 3 green ball attack and a spinning claw swipe attack, so keep an eye out for that as you're attacking the golems. When High Midgard gets up after he breaks, he'll do a few moves and soon afterwards he will do a move called Gale Blast. He'll also do this move randomly later on, so watch out for that as this move is extremely dangerous. You can tell when he's about to perform Gale Blast because he'll say Tempest come forth at the very top. You want to make sure to avoid standing at the outer edges on the top side of the map. That's where the Gale Blast tornadoes will form. If you get hit by a tornado, then you're probably dead, so yeah, try your best to position yourself correctly beforehand so you don't get hit when they spawn. When they do spawn, you want to move and look for the tornado with the gray colored wind around it. It's always going to be the tornado either first on the left or first on the right. If it's not on the left, then you know it will be on the right and vice versa. The gray wind indicates that that's the tornado that will traverse across the map first. And as the tornadoes start moving across the map, your team should move towards the top while hugging the outer edges to avoid the tornadoes coming from the opposite side. And that's the last significant move that High Midgard does. Now I will go over some tips and stuff related to his attack patterns. 99% of the time, High Midgard has the exact same attack patterns. The patterns during mid-fight can change depending on how fast your team puts him into overdrive mode and stuff related to that nature, but you should at least memorize his moves in the beginning. 99% of the time, he will always do Calamicious Storm first, stand there for a few seconds and you can get a full combo off during this downtime, then he'll dash backwards afterwards. You should figure out how many hits you can get in before he dashes backwards. For example, my Vanessa can get in a full 5-hit standard combo with a 4-strike at the end before he flies backwards. Then I would dodge 2 times behind him to position myself for the next part. I start attacking him the moment right before he lands and I can get in about 4 attacks. Once I get in the 4 attacks, I dodge roll once so I don't get quote unquote stunned as he's flying in the air to do Trident Tempest. It's not really an actual stun, but if you're right next to him as he's flying up to do that move, then it will make your character flinch. So what I like to do is dodge roll out once to avoid getting flinched, and I can usually get 2 attacks in while he's charging Trident Tempest. Then I start to dodge roll out the purple lines towards the side of his body, and because axes have great range, I can usually attack him 3 times as he's activating Trident Tempest. After Trident Tempest, he always dashes forward and performs his spinning swipe attack. At this point, I'll have my skill 1 and weapon skill available. I use the weapon skill to dodge the dash, get 2 normal attacks in, then use my skill 1 to dodge the spinning swipe. He'll dash backwards after that and start shooting out the 3 green balls, so I usually dodge roll twice behind him to position myself for it. Skill 2 will be available at this time, so I'll activate it right before he shoots out the first green ball and I'll dodge the rest normally. You want to make sure that you use your skills as much as possible whenever they are up, but you should learn his attack pattern so you don't use a skill at the wrong time and get punished for it. After the green balls, he'll do the I shall render you asunder move. Go run to a safe place, then as soon as the tornadoes fly by, you can run towards him and attack him and use all the skills that you have available. Stack up with your teammates before Tattered Sky goes off, and once it goes off, I usually just run straight across the map immediately. One person can just stay put and DPS High Midgard while this is happening. I would usually just leave the Makotos or whoever has the most strength to do that. I personally immediately run across the map so I can make sure that I don't accidentally overlap my purple circle with somebody else's and cause somebody to die. And yeah, that's pretty much his attack pattern for the beginning. He'll do the same type of attacks after this until you get him into overdrive. When he starts summoning golems during overdrive mode, you want to immediately run to the big golem and try to take him out as soon as possible. If my skills are up, I would usually just use them on the big golem. However, sometimes I do save my skills for the break if we're taking down the big golem very fast. It all depends on the situation. When you eventually break High Midgard, you should obviously try to use everything to DPS him down. Use your skills and constantly attack him. Some people like to drag in right before he breaks, some players don't. I think it's up to personal preference, but I usually save my dragon for later on to use as an emergency. I think if you have a very high DPSing team like averaging 2.5k strength or something like that, then go ahead and drag him right there. Also, if you have a sword character on the team, then I think it's fine to dragon here as well because sword characters provide dragon haste, so that'll allow you to have dragon up a second time later on. Let me tell you why I saved the dragon. Later on, he'll do Tattered Sky and Storm Chaser 1 to 2 more times. I already mentioned before that he does it once in the very beginning. The second time he does it, you can usually just stack up and separate like normally. However, when he does it a third time, sometimes he'll do it during a Gale Blast, and this is a very dangerous situation. You can survive this normally by just stacking and separating, but sometimes Verikas don't have their heals up or they just don't know how to use their Phoenix here. So what you can do if it doesn't go according to plan is that whoever is targeted by Tattered Sky or the red circle, that player should turn into a dragon to tank the blow and take it for the team so the team doesn't have to stack up. Doing this will allow the rest of the team to be able to tank Storm Chaser safely without having any heals, assuming that everyone is at full health during this moment. From the clip shown on the screen, you can see that my Verika died and Makoto turned into Agni to tank the Tattered Sky attack. I wanted to stay healthy, so I turned into a dragon to tank Storm Chaser, while the Ezolith on my team probably didn't have dragon up since he used it during the break, so he just straight up took the hit. The funny thing is, I actually got hit by green balls, so I would have died if I didn't dragon to tank Storm Chaser. So yeah, this is a perfect situation on why I like to save my dragon. I save it for emergencies like this. I mean, if everything does go according to plan, then I can still use dragon whenever later on if I do require extra damage. So it's like a win-win situation. And I think that's pretty much it for this guide. This fight is honestly not as hard as it may seem once you play a bunch of times. Through trial and error, you'll start to learn how to manage your skills correctly, and more importantly, his attack patterns will become muscle memory. Before I fought him the first time, I studied like 2 different High Midgard videos for a good like 5 minutes. I mainly studied what to do at the beginning of the fight. I didn't really watch anything beyond that. I think you can just learn what to do at certain moments by just watching and copying teammates while you're playing. Don't get discouraged if you keep on dying. It took me 3 whole hours before I got my first win with randoms in public matches. You just have to realize that people are just going to die, plain and simple. You'll die and your teammates will die as well. But at the end of the day, the only way that you will get better is by playing. The only reason why High Midgard is so difficult is because there's little room for error. One mistake from anybody can cost you the game, so it's really important that everyone on the team knows what they are doing. And that's going to be it for this video. I'll let you guys watch a couple of my High Midgard playthroughs, but I'm heading out. If you have any questions regarding anything, then let me know in the comments. People that are looking for other players to co-op with are always welcome in my Discord. Links will be in the description below. I hope this video was helpful, and as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.